Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of 330 Archived. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hale Farm and Village Museum located in Bath, Ohio. The story of the Hale Farm and Village begins in 1810 when Jonathan Hale, a farmer from Glastonbury, Connecticut, moved to the Cuyahoga Valley after unsettled debts of a friend were forced on Hale, who guaranteed the payment as a gesture of good faith. Hale sold his Connecticut property, and with $1,250 left, he purchased the 500 acres in the Western Reserve from the Connecticut Land Company. From north to south, the Western Reserve made up the area from the south shores of Lake Erie to the 41st parallel just north of Canton, and from east to west, the Pennsylvania border to 120 miles west near Toledo. Hale arrived at his new property in June of the same year, having made the 646-mile trip from his last place of residence, a trip that lasted 28 days. Upon his arrival, he noticed a man named Abraham Miller living in the cabin on the new land. The man had cleared the fields and built the cabin, and Hale respected the work that had gone into caring for his new home. So he gave Miller his horse and wagon in exchange, and Hale's family lived in that cabin for the next 15 years. In November of 1810, mere months later, Hale's sisters, Rachel and Sarah, and their families arrived with his wife Mercy and their children Sophronia, William, and Amelia. On December 5, 1811, Hale and Mercy's son Andrew was the first child born in their new home, and two more children, Abigail and James, followed. Bath Township was founded in 1818, and Hale began to plan a larger, more permanent home in 1824. In 1825, Hale, along with the help of his niece's husband, John Bosworth, began construction on a 3-story red brick house, which was made using clay from the Cuyahoga River for bricks and burned lime for mortar. All the materials were found on his own property. In 1827, when it was completed, it was one of only 2 brick houses located in the Cuyahoga Valley, as the concept of a brick federal-style home was new to pioneer families. The first story of the house was similar to the single room of the old log cabin and contained the kitchen, dining, and living areas. Because the house was built into a slope, there are no rear-facing windows on the first story. The more formal second floor contained a parlor and what was likely a formal dining room before it was used as a bedroom. In May 1827, Sophronia Hale married Ward K. Hammond in the parlor before the walls were even plastered. The third floor was first divided into 6 small bedrooms, but it was later changed to allow for fewer larger bedrooms. However, there were no fireplaces and therefore no heat on the third floor. Still, the Hales were rather fond of their new home, lovingly naming it Old Brick. In 1828, William married a woman named Sally Upson, and a 1.5-story addition was built to be a living room for the entire family, and William and Sally moved into the first floor. Hale's wife Mercy died in October 1829, and in November of 1830, he married his second wife Sarah, and they had 3 children together. Then in 1838, Andrew married Jane Mather and built a small home for them across the street. Andrew took over the farm in 1844, and his father died a decade later in 1854, with his second wife following him in the next year. A large barn was built around 1850, and Andrew built another barn in 1866 and continued to live on the farm with his wife and their children. Their son Charles married Pauline Krantz in 1875 and inherited the estate when Andrew died in 1884. Charles and Pauline began offering their home as a summering house, inviting guests from the city to stay with them. It became known as the Hale Inn, where Charles was called the Squire, and Pauline cooked and served meals to guests. When Pauline and Charles died childless, Clara Ritchie, their niece, and her husband bought the homestead. Clara died in 1953, and she left the family's farm to the Western Reserve Historical Society so that it could be established as a museum, teaching many about the history and culture of the Western Reserve. At first, this museum was made up of the furnished family home and a barn containing old farm equipment. Within the first year, hundreds of people visited, all experiencing the Hale family's farming tradition and learning about the traditional crafts of spinning and weaving. Since the museum was so successful, there was a need to expand the experience, and the farm became a village. Over the next 30-plus years, other historic structures were relocated to the property to preserve the Western Reserve's history, as well as to allow for galleries for the display of hundreds of collection pieces for the general public. 3 original mantels remain, as well as the wide plank poplar floors of the parlor and third-floor bedrooms. In April 1973, the Jonathan Hale homestead received the National Register of Historic Places designation, the first property in Bath to receive the honor. Today there are 34 historic structures on the premises, including 8 built by the 3 generations of the Hale family that live there. Guests can also see farm animals, craft and trade demonstrations, gardens, and costumed interpreters to explain what life on the farm would have looked like. The museum is open Wednesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there you have the history of Hale Farm and Village. For more content like this, please consider checking out our social media accounts. Like our Facebook page, love our Instagram posts, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all the latest news, entertainment coverage, and so much more, all from 330 To Go, Akron's hottest and fastest news and entertainment network. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.